So there's something that I've seen a lot lately, and it confuses me. And really, in the last like decade or so, seeing it at all is very strange, right? And this is like when people talk about Neanderthals going extinct and like Homo sapiens taking over or some bullshit, right? For some reason, I've seen this one, some discussion of this a lot lately. I don't know why there's an uptick in this. And then, particularly including speculation of why this has happened, why Neanderthals went extinct. But what I haven't seen anyone point out is that typical people of European and Asian descent have a significant portion of, I don't know how you would even determine this, but Neanderthal DNA, right? And I'll get to the problem of why that's weird that that claim even exists. But, right, so the current idea is that people of European descent have somewhere around 1/64th Neanderthal in them, and people of Asian descent are close to 1/32nd, right? So I used powers of 2 here on purpose, but they're very close to this. Like 1/64th is right around 1.5%, and for Europeans, it's generally like 1.2 or 1.3 up to like 2.1%, somewhere in that ballpark is the estimate, right? So 1/64th is pretty accurate as like a kind of a midline, and then you have a little error bar on that. But now, if you notice, that's as if the average person of European descent had a Neanderthal ancestor only 6 generations back, right? Because 64 is 2 to the 6th, right? 2 to the 1st is 2, 2 to the 2nd is 4, 2 to the 3rd is 8, 2 to the 4th is 16, 2 to the 5th is 32, 2 to the 6th is 64, right? So, and so, yeah, we've gone 6 generations back, and an average person of Asian descent, we're going about 5 generations, right? So, for context, that's your first generation would be your parents, your second was your grandparents, then your great grandparents, your great great grandparents, then your 3 greats grandparents, and then your 4 greats grandparents, right? Now, even if we use relatively long estimate for the average gap between generations of about 30 years, which is probably unreasonably long, but so this is going to give us probably an overestimate for the time gap between these generations. That means that the current European populations would have a simulated, so this is like a mathematically hypothetical simulated Neanderthal ancestor that would have been alive in the mid-1800s. And you have the current Asian population would have this simulated Neanderthal ancestor alive up until about 1800 or 1900, right? So that's not that long ago, honestly. These basically like Victorian England, that period. And when you put everything together, all told, you get about 20% of the Neanderthal genome, which is allegedly distinct, isn't actually, right? Because it's still preserved across the modern human population. 20% of the Neanderthal genome, which is allegedly distinct from modern humans, still exists in modern humans. Explain to me how that makes sense. How do you take, right, you have this extinct population of humans, okay, and extant humans, and you want to compare them genetically, and you make the claim that the genome of the extinct group is distinct, but 20% of the material in there that you're claiming is distinct actually occurs in modern humans. What? And then that puts our collective human ancestry at more like just 2 generations. 2 or 3, somewhere in that ballpark. 3 is significantly higher than that. Away from having a simulated Neanderthal ancestor, which, when we take into account that the average age of an American is in the late 30s, like 38 something right now. I'm actually slightly older than the average American at this point. That makes that a purely mathematical construct of an individual a boomer, right? So if we were to take this and say, okay, well, this indicates that, like, we could have like a Neanderthal ancestor to everyone that's currently alive. What is the most recent that this ancestor could have lived? They could be alive right now. That's basically what this means. So, should that really even qualify as them being extinct? Should that really even qualify them as having been wiped out? Right? The Neanderthals disappeared something like 40,000 years ago, give or take something. Maybe 5,000 years, I think. I think I've seen estimates of 35,000, and I know I saw an estimate earlier today of 42,000. So 40,000 plus or minus something, right? They've been gone for 40,000 years. But the amount of their DNA that is still present in the modern human population is there's so much of it that if you were to treat this statistically as indicative of there being a Neanderthal ancestor to the human population in general now, that Neanderthal ancestor would actually still be alive. Like, it's a weird way to look at it, granted, but that's kind of crazy. 40,000 years and that much of their genetic distinctiveness has been preserved? And you're claiming that they went extinct? That they were wiped out by Homo sapiens? No, they weren't. They were assimilated. What the fuck are you talking about? This is I don't know. When I actually worked through this, I was like, wait, this is actually kind of cool. Like, the Neanderthal people have been gone for a very long time, but it's almost as if, okay, worst case scenario, this hypothetical ancestor looks like it would have lived in frickin' Victorian England? That's amazing. That's amazing. Because after 40,000 years, the difference between 40,000 and 150 is a lot. That's a big ass fucking difference. I don't know. I think that what this means is very much underappreciated. Right? How much genetic distinctiveness of the Neanderthals is extant in humans, modern humans, is very much underappreciated. Right? The degree to which I am Neanderthal is probably on par with the degree to which I'm Finnish or something. I don't really know what my ancestry is, but for comparison, right? For a lot of Native American tribes in the U.S., you have to be maybe a quarter Native, something like that. Whatever their rule is, it's It's only a couple generations back. So this is only this is not that much more diluted. But it's had 40,000 years to be diluted. That's amazing. Has it remained similarly undiluted for that period of time? Or is it continuing to grow more diluted? That seems likely. Um, Due simply to mutations. And human populations breeding with each other, extant human populations breeding with each other in ways which further dilutes it. That seems very likely. So if you go back 10,000 years, what's the ratio? Are the ratios higher? Are they significantly higher? Is it more like each individual now in Europe has 20% Neanderthal in them at that point? Or 5% or 10%? Or something like. There's a lot of this picture that's missing. So that I feel like it isn't appreciated how ridiculous it is to claim that they just went extinct, that Homo sapiens just wiped them out somehow, that we just outcompeted them. I don't think that's a reasonable claim.